Good afternoon. I'm honored to welcome you all on today's webinar hosted by Jananvu. My name is Pratya from the marketing team, and I have the privilege of being your host for this insightful session. Before we begin, I'm pleased to introduce our esteemed speakers, Sheetal Bagul and Hargun Sethi, are subject matter experts with over several years of experience in medical writing, and they'll be sharing their invaluable insights on challenges during manual QC, how automation supports human quality review DocQC. Without further ado, let's begin this webinar. I encourage you all to actively engage and make the most of this enriching opportunity. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Pragya. So, hello everyone. I'm Sheetal Bagul, and I would be starting first today with this webinar. So, the topic that is to be presented is the challenges during manual QC and how automation supports human quality review. Moving to the next slide. So, here we have listed down the agenda of today's webinar, the introduction to the quality review, historical practices of review cycle, challenges encountered during manual review, introduction to artificial intelligence in medical writing and healthcare domain, then our solution, that is DocQC tool. It's a medical writer's automation tool for quality checks. We have the next one is the DocQC workflow, and the last is the conclusion. Moving to the next slide. So this is about the introduction to the quality review. So as we all know that there is a tremendous rise in the diseases, and hence there is a demand of the new drugs in the market. Before we launch the new drugs, the pharma companies need to prove that these drugs have the positive benefit risk ratio. And yes, documentation is lot of documentation is required in the form of many documents like protocol, CSR, to prove that drugs are actually safe. And here the quality review, it becomes a very, I can say, extremely important to thoroughly review the data mentioned in this document. So quality check is very important over here, and this will help the health authorities to get a clean picture to what extent drug is safe for the patients. Moving to the next slide, the QC, it ensures that the document is accurate, clear, and consistent with other documents if there are any. And it also ensures that medical information is effectively communicated, and thus it contributes in the welfare of the people. So here in this slide, we have depicted that how manual review is done to validate the information which is already mentioned in the clinical documents. So there may be the multiple cycles of review depending upon the review comments. So as you can see in the flow chart, so once the document is drafted, it is then manually reviewed, and if there are review comments, then again it goes back to the author to address those comments. And once again the manual review is done to check whether the comments or whether the findings are correctly addressed. And if there are no further findings, then the document is made ready for the submission. Now we will move to the next one, that is the challenges encountered during the manual review. So the clinical data, they may come in the structured, or I can say the unstructured format. Now the unstructured format like scanned documents, narrative descriptions, then the handwritten notes, they all possess a unique challenges, due to their diverse formats and the lack of standardization. So extracting the relevant information, or the, I can say, the relevant data, it really becomes challenging and difficult for the medical writer doing it manually. And this may at times lead to the human errors and the inconsistencies. And I can also say that these are very time consuming process. So in this slide and in the next slide, I will explain what frequent challenges are faced. The very first is the scientific accuracy. So reviewers has to ensure that whatever data is mentioned in the document, It has to be accurate against the original sources. They need to thoroughly verify the study result and confirm whether there is an accurate representation of scientific concepts and terminology. So in short, I can say that, eye to detail is very important for these things. The next is the clarity and coherence. So here also QCR has to make sure that the data are presented in a clear and organized manner so that it doesn't affect the readability of the document. The next is the language and grammar. So once again, the QCR has to check that the language is precise, concise, clear, and it adheres to all the grammatical rules. Then there should be a appropriate use of medical terminology and abbreviation. So this also needs to be get assured from the medical writer. Moving to the next slide. So here we have more 5 points listed down. The first is the consistency. So this is one of the important check that has to be checked across the documents in regards to terminology, abbreviations, concepts. So doing this is time consuming and the chances of mismatch are very common across the different documents. Then the compliance with the guidelines and regulations. So reviewer has to doubly ensure that the relevant guidelines are followed and the document has to be compliant to the regulatory requirements for the submission. The next is the ethical considerations. So QCR has to make sure for documents that they follow the ethical consideration ethically so that the protection of the patient confidentiality are safeguarded. They should adhere to the ethical guidelines related to the participants. So the documents such as ICF, they need to be thoroughly checked for these kind of things. Now moving to the reference, citation and accuracy. So in the documents, there are many texts which comes from the different references, different literature. So the medical writer has to ensure the proper citation and to check whether the data is consistent with the referred literature, or I can say the publication, and they have to check the accuracy of the data also against the literature. They need to check the relevance of the data, whether that is appropriate as per the context what is mentioned in the surrounding of the document. And the last one is the formatting and presentation. So this task seem to be very simple, that the font style, spacing, page layout, proper use of headings, subheadings, these are very easy to do, but I can say that these are very time consuming and it takes a lot of time to do. So these are the few challenges what we have encountered during manual review, and as I have mentioned in the agenda that going ahead we will be looking for the automation tool that can ease the work of the medical writer and help to review the documents in a faster time with good accuracy. So I would request Hargun to please take forward for these slides.
Yeah, thank you, Sheetal. So I'll be continuing with the introduction to AI. So in recent years, artificial intelligence has been incorporated in a variety of sectors, and healthcare is one of them. Medical writers have been using AI algorithms in document review, and that is to reduce their time spent on the clinical document review. For quality review, instead of spending days on reviewing the clinical documents, now AI has come with its own algorithms to reduce the time to just a mere few hours or even minutes. AI analyzes large datasets of clinical documents and it interprets them to help recognize the patterns, identify key information, and even make predictions. Since these algorithms are being trained on a variety of clinical documents, so AI understands the new patterns and helps analyze them into meaningful reports and data. This also helps us to identify the trends going on in the healthcare and also highlight the potential risk and even suggest appropriate treatment options based on the evidence based guidelines. Now, since these large volumes of data can be QC'd and analyzed in a short time, healthcare professionals have access to critical information promptly, which even leads to improved decision making and better patient care. AI also helps across different healthcare providers, and it reduces the variations in the way which information is being recorded. So it ensures the uniformity and clarity in the clinical documents and help maintain standardized documentation practices. With AI handling the initial review and extraction of information from clinical documents, now healthcare professionals can focus more on the direct patient care and spend less time on the administrative tasks. Next slide. Sheetal, can you move to the next slide, please?
Okay, I have done, Hargun. Is that visible?
Yeah, yes.
Yeah.
Thank you. So, Geninvo, with guidance and feedback from SMEs in medical writing, business, and technology as well, we have developed an automated solution, DocQC. Now, DocQC is designed to automate the complex quality checks and to increase the efficiency and effectiveness of the review process. The introduction of DocQC has significantly reduced the time to review the clinical documents from hours and days to mere a couple of minutes. And it even leaves medical writers more time to spend on tasks that require their critical thinking and expertise. In DocQC, we have text to text comparisons, text to table comparisons, and even table to table comparisons that helps validate the data quickly. Next slide, please. Now, here we have a workflow as to how you can incorporate DocQC tool into your own review process without much hassle. You can simply upload your documents that need to be QC'd into DocQC and start executing the quality review checks on those documents. And while you review, we also provide you an option to provide your review comments or assign any task to the author, and they can go ahead and work on your review comments inside the DocQC. Once you are satisfied with the quality of documents, you can export these documents for further submissions. Next slide. So AI with even immense advantages, it is not here to replace the medical writers, but instead it is here to assist the medical writers and help them help them review the documents quickly. It enhances systems intelligence, algorithms, and models, which further assist the medical writers. Even with so many advantages of AI like efficiency, accuracy, consistency, time saving, and predictive analysis, and even compliance, still human supervision is extremely required. Medical writers are the one that possess the expertise, clinical knowledge, and detailed understanding required to interpret this medical data, contextual information, and ensure that the quality of scientific content is correct. They can analyze these research findings and assess the clinical relevance and provide valuable insights that AI algorithms may overlook. So, medical writers are actually the ones responsible to ensure the accurate and appropriate interpretation of research findings, adhering to the ethical guidelines, and presenting information in a way that is accessible, unbiased, and more understandable to the target audience. Next slide. At the same time, medical writers still need to keep themselves updated with the latest advancements and developments that are being done in the technologies. So they can utilize the AI and the ML to its maximum potential and help bring the drugs faster into the market. There is a requirement for a healthy and balanced relationship between the medical writer and AI. so that they can collaboratively work in the industry and help bring the drugs into the market faster. So with this, we end our today's webinar, and thank you all for joining. Pragya, back to you.
Thank you, Sheetal. Thank you, Hargun, for your insightful presentation. Now, I would like to open the floor for questions. Thank you, everyone, for your participation and contribution. We hope you found this webinar informative and enriching. Stay connected with us for future events and updates. Have a wonderful day.